Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, StratGamer here, providing you with new content about Anno 1800. Today, this is episode 4 of our Scholar Run, the series where I show you how I'm going to reach as many scholars as possible without the export-import cheat, let's say. If you don't know about this series, if you want to check out the previous episode, don't hesitate to look at the link in the description below or at the pop-up at the top of the screen. I'm going to cover 3 things in this episode. The first one being to correct a small mistake I made in the past. The second being to look at my canned food production. And lastly, we're going to look at a bit how I handle the transport to get to a lot of scholars. And then as a preview in the next episode, we are actually going to look at my first scholar island and how I build it, what is really important when you build yours, and what is the result. And of course, along the way, always talking about things like what are the items and specialists I'm using, where you can find them, etc, etc. Okay, so let's dive in. Before we do, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you're into strategy games, city building games, simulations, that is exactly what I cover. For example, I started covering Total War Warhammer 2 recently, so if you're into that, also don't hesitate to check those videos. And yeah, so subscribe to the channel so you never miss another video and you help support the channel. Okay, so let's start with the small mistake I made in the past. Let me take that quickly, because we need as many as we can. Okay, so this was my island about the suits, if you remember the previous video. And if we look at the suit production, so I have nice items. I have, of course, the Department of Labor impact. They are getting electricity thanks to that one here, and they are getting the plus 50 working condition because I don't have any artisan needed thanks to the item. One thing I didn't have last time was this polar bear or polar circle park bonus, which is a 25 productivity bonus again, so quite a lot. And to make that happen, I only had to delete one of these, which was here, and one warehouse, which was there. And as you can see, I still have enough warehouses, so that's fine. And losing only one of these definitely is a good trade-off versus getting plus 25 for all of these. So don't hesitate to make sure that you do check out always the zoo, museums and botanical garden elements that you can use on some of these islands, and see if it's worth it compared, for example, to the size of the island. Now, taking a quick look at the zoo, this is the polar circle one, 6 items, and let's take a quick look how you get them. Control T, we can focus on the cultural one. As you can see, Research Institute, diving. So the easiest is definitely the Research Institute. Similarly for the narwhal, same for the polar bear, same for the walrus. Here for the Arctic fox, you can also get it at the trader in the Arctic. And lastly, similarly for the ring seal. So again, for many of these items, it's usually easier just research them in the Research Institute, but for a few of them, and in particular the less rare, the trader can be quicker solution. Okay, so that was the first element, and if you remember, I do use many items also in the previous islands that we looked at. For example, here for my pig island, you can see a museum here, you can see a botanical garden there, and there was another one there. So these things are quite important to give you really the max production for your island size. So yes, indeed, last time we looked at this pig island. I told you that the pig would be useful for my boots production, thanks to a nice item that replaces the input of Sanga cow by pigs. But of course there is another production line that is interested by pig, and it's the canned food. But again, it is only if you use a specific item. And here is my cat food island. As for the suits, you can see I took a very small island and tried to make the most out of it.
Someone once told me they didn't like my work.
Oh,
I threw myself in a nettle patch.
I'm really sorry to hear that. So as you can see, there is some wood, some trees that I put. I didn't put any farms like the vineyard. I could have, for example, I could have put one here, take a bit that space, one here, take a bit here. I may do it in the future, but for now, I would just wanted to focus on the can. I started so first by moving all of the clay pit to one side, and you could have put it there, there, it doesn't really matter. I put them one side, and then trying to put this trade union. So you have a trade union with all of these canneries. So this is sort of the max you can put in one trade union, and then putting as many again as I can in those corners. Again, I could potentially put one here if I didn't put the clip it. Okay, so let's take a quick look now at these items. This one is the important one. It's Chef Michel, because it will replace the goulash by processed pigs. So if we look quickly at the canneries, normal process is to have first cattle farms and red pepper farms that goes into artisanal kitchen to do goulash, and you add to this goulash some iron, and then only you get to the cannery. That is a lot. With Chef Michel you completely take out this part here and you just put pigs there. And of course, as we are producing more than 1,500 pigs, this is great for us. So Chef Michel, and then a couple of items to reduce our workforce to 0, as well as increase the productivity as much as we can. If you have better items, do not hesitate to share in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. But for me, I chose this one, the cutting edge, because it reduces the workforce by 50% plus productivity also. The printing press can be used a bit everywhere, 40% and plus 25, and you combine with Ferras to get 10 more percent for your workforce, so you are at 0 workforce and the 50% productivity is quite nice. Of course, you have other elements. If we look here, we have also the electricity, the Department of Labor, and the workforce, 50%. Just put it there. There is 0 workforce, so it's perfect. We won't have any riot, any fires. As you can see, no fire stations, no police station anywhere. And yes, the Department of Labor actually didn't put it in the middle, because even being it in that corner, you can still reach all of them. So that's perfect. Small. So the only, let's say, small issue, or not issue, but one thing that's not perfect is there's no mines on this island, so I do have to bring the oil in for this power plant. As you can see, it's not perfect either. It's not reaching this one and this one and this one, so 3 of them are not reached out of the whole island. So it's not perfect, but it's pretty close. Of course, I also put the as much as I could from the dockland. So we have some piers, some depots, and as many loading wharf as possible to make sure it is quick. So yeah, that is my can production. As you can see, quite nice 100 cans, and also as a byproduct sausage I don't really need, but it's good when you want to have other elements outside of scholars. It does require, of course, iron, as we said, and the pigs. Whereas 100, we're producing 1,500, so it's good, and 100 iron, that's also coming from the same island we are going to look at. So this is, oh no, sorry, one thing I forgot to show you is these items. Where can you get them? So let's look at that quickly. Control T. Let's just put this equipped. So the cutting edge, the research institute, you can get again mostly also from exhibitions and military as always, and some quests and expeditions, but these sort of percentage, right, are very low versus the research institute. You know, it's guaranteed you're gonna choose it and get it. The Chef Michel is a lot easier to get because you can get it at Ellie, but again, if you don't want to just roll the dice, the Research Institute. And the bell is for my clay pit, so no need to look at it. Printing press, as always, Research Institute, but you do need to have the DLC, the Anarchist. And then lastly, Ferras is one of the easier. You can have the Research Institute, the trader Ellie and Isabel, and also many people just have sort of their farm, their attractiveness farm will bring them a lot. So if you don't know about this subject, don't hesitate to tell me in the comments below. Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to show you a bit is how I'm starting to manage the transport of all of these resources. So a couple of elements to show. If we look a bit at the routes, I'm starting to organize a bit more with this new functionality here, where you can create groups of elements together. So the first one, for example, is for the canned food. As you can see, I'm bringing oil from this island where I was producing tons. I'm also bringing the pigs from there and the iron from there. I'm using different routes so that obviously it is costing a bit more influence because I have more boats than if I just had one boat doing both of them. But with that separation, it's easy to see, for example, if I'm missing iron, then I just put one more boat in the iron one. If I'm missing pig, I just put one more boat there, etc., etc. So that is for the inputs. And then if we think about outputs, so it's going to start here, there. As you can see, the old world intra. So it comes from the island where we produce it, and it goes to this island here, which you can see is called reserve. We'll look at it just after. Then from that one, it goes to the cape, and as you can see, the cape goes to that border here. So the way the distances they have to go is not high, and it will be similar in the cape, because it will arrive and just go to the first island there, which is also called a reserve. And then lastly, from the reserve it goes to my first scholar island. Then I will probably have another route that goes to second, third, or probably also maybe one route that just does like this. We'll see when we get there. But as you can see, basically the principle I'm using is centralization into an island, and then sending into wherever it needs to be sent as a region, and then decentralizing. So this is the principle I'm using also for other elements like the boots. If we go back to the old world, so the boots need pig. I'm also Well, this one doesn't need to be there, but I put it because it's linked to the pig where I'm dumping my wheat, if you remember from the previous video. And then similarly, right, it comes from that island, goes to the reserve. From the reserve, it goes to the cape. In that the reserve of the cape, and then in the cape, we can check. In the cape, it goes to where it needs to be. As you can see, it comes from this one, which is my second reserve. So I have two reserves in the cape because so many boats coming in. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is video number 4 on the Scholar Run. We've touched upon the items in the zoo for the suits. We touched upon this new Can island and how you can really maximize that space. And we also looked a bit at my transport or my trade routes between islands and how I like to do it. As I said in the beginning, in the next episode we're gonna look at my first Scholar Island, how I built it, what are the items in the town halls, what are the important elements to take into account, and also a bit the result. What can you expect from such an island at full speed in a sense. Hope you like this video. As always, don't hesitate to put any comments, suggestions, thoughts, questions in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it.